Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Week Ahead, brought to you by MarCommEd. It's episode 2 of season 2. My name's Zack Grimes, and I'm a co-host here today with Ryan Green. How are you, Ryan?
Yeah, good, thanks, Zack. So after last week's session, my wife and I decided that we were going to adopt a kitten. We've been having a new kitten in our family. Totally underestimated the impact that this would have on my sleeping pattern. So I'm currently got something kind of residing on my lap here, as you can see, little thing here, curled up. So if I sound like I'm purring on this session, yes, I am happy to be here. Season 2, session episode 2, but it's this new kitten that's decided to take over our life.
Oh, brilliant! Well, you've got an interesting week ahead there with a kitten, and I'm sure you'll get used to those sleepless nights. But we're joined today with another brilliant guest. We've got Kim Stuart-Jones from St Thomas Aquinas Catholic Multi-Academy Trust in Leicestershire. How are you, Kim?
Yeah, really good, thank you. No kittens on my lap today. But yeah,
any dogs? No office dogs?
If I was at home, my dog would be next to me, but I'm in the office and no dogs allowed. So yeah, I'm on my own.
Oh, brilliant! My dog's sulking today. She's I think she's a bit fed up because of the Manchester rain, and we've not been able to get out for a long walk this morning. But hopefully, some point later today. Kim, again, thank you for joining us. I know it's a busy time of year. It's great to have you on. We first met when you came to the event in London at Canva. Can you just tell us a little bit about your role and the trust you work for?
Yeah, so I am Marketing and Comms Manager for St Thomas Aquinas Catholic Multi-Academy Trust. As the name would suggest, we're a Catholic trust. So we look after all of the Catholic schools in Leicester City, Leicestershire and Rutland. So there are 23 schools altogether, which are part of our trust. And so I guess compared to a lot of trusts, there is no growth for us. We are a fixed trust. There will be no more schools joining us. So that's who I work for. I've been here for about 2.5 years doing this role. And yeah, but my background is not in marketing at all. I came to this brand new. I believe the trust took me on because whilst I didn't have that marketing experience, I'd worked in schools for a really long time. So just kind of had that in-depth knowledge of how they work. And I think marketing in education is so niche. Sometimes actually having that knowledge of what it's like to be a teacher, what it's like to be a member of support staff, what it's like to be a parent of a child in a school was actually really beneficial for this role. So got a really varied background, not in marketing, but I've been doing a marketing role now for 2.5 years and really enjoy it.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, it's interesting you say that because, there is on the spectrum, you either get people that have never worked in education but have had a career in marketing and comms and come into it, and can bring a lot of value. But on the other side, you've got people like yourself who've worked in education but not necessarily worked in marketing and, again, can bring a lot of value. So I don't, there's no right or wrong in a lot of ways, but actually I think the key is in an ideal world is getting those people to work together. I think the advantage and where you've probably gained a lot of marketing skills with subconsciously is that the fact that you've been in and around the schools, you've seen problems, you've seen how people tackle those, you've seen the engagement and a lot of communication over the years that you've been across that. So I think it's a lot of value that you can bring to your trust and hopefully towards the community. Okay, so what in terms of the week ahead, what's that looking like for you?
So I would say, I don't know how other people are feeling at the moment, but September so far has just been absolutely bonkers, and always is. And with 23 schools to look after and making sure that everything's ready for their open mornings, open evenings, and what have you. Yeah, it's just been quite bonkers. It is. I've reached a point now where everyone has got their stuff, so to speak. They've all got their posters and banners and booklets and physical marketing products. All the social media adverts are out there, so this week is a little bit calmer. That said, still really busy. Got loads of I guess kind of training things I'm doing this week with schools. So I've got One school at the moment has no social media presence at all, so getting them set up this week and doing a training session. A couple of my schools are trying to get their websites really up to scratch in terms of, so I don't know if you're aware, but Catholic schools as well as Ofsted also have a Catholic schools inspection, helpfully called CSI. Which I always think sounds a bit scary, but yeah. So getting schools ready for CSIs and working with them on their websites and making sure that it's kind of accurately reflecting the Catholic life that's happening in their school. So I've got quite a bit of that to do this week. I'm also in the middle of doing a course. So my trust are supporting me to do a marketing manager course. So I've got lots of work kind of in the evenings to do with that this week. And then the final thing I'm really working on at the moment is, so I've been here 2.5 years, and prior to me arriving, there was no one doing marketing at all. So it was a brand new job. So I've kind of set everything up, and which I suppose had its challenges in some ways, but actually has been quite good because I could, the blank canvas, I could start from scratch. But what I'm trying to do now, 2 years in, is really work with the schools and make sure that, they're able to manage things a little bit more themselves. So, for example, social media. I'm trying to set up I'm calling it the social network. I'm trying to set that up across the schools. So we've got one person from each school feeding in, and just a little bit of a network so that they can, we can sort of share good practice of where people have done, great social media posts or stories or what have you. So yeah, that's on my pad for this week as well. So yeah, busy week, but not quite as mental as the last few weeks.
Just bringing back to the bit you started with, obviously you said that getting the open day sorted. I mean, do you feel, I completely agree, September has been just crazy busy. Do you feel that the kind of anxiety and the need for open days now is obviously really high? People are kind of worried about numbers and admissions, but also like reputation, like if we don't have one of these and everyone else does, standing. But the schools haven't quite got themselves into the fact that they need to be planning this kind of in March and May, and doing all the preparation leading. So you've got this kind of the urgency of the big event, but the time frame's still really, really short because the planning and preparation isn't done prior to the summer holidays, and this comes full straight after.
Yeah, so I guess maybe this is on me a little bit, really. So we have 4 secondary schools, and three of those have a sixth form. So how I tend to operate is I spend most of the time before the summer holidays getting them ready, so that from the 1st of September they've got absolutely everything. We have that printed before the summer holidays. They're completely ready to go. I then tend to spend my summer holidays planning and preparing all the materials for the primary schools, because I guess they tend to have their open mornings more into sort of October, sometimes November. So yeah, September, from the 1st of September, kind of everything's made. It's just a case of liaising with their 19 head teachers, making sure everything's okay, making sure everyone's happy. So yeah, that's kind of how I work, and that is kind of how it works from a budget perspective as well. Our budgets change on the 1st of September, so I'm then in sort of prime, like, order everything mode. So yeah, that's kind of, in an ideal world, I'd love to have it all sorted before the summer holidays, but logistically, this is kind of how it's working at the moment. Okay. So it does always make for a bit of a mad September.
Yeah, I think I feel your pain with that as well. If I can just jump in there, because in an ideal world, that we would be doing that 6 months earlier. The trust I'm at, Laura's Trust, we try as much as we possibly can. And, I've been fortunate that, I've got schools into thinking a lot earlier on this stuff. But it's also down to the local authorities you're in as well, because, that part of this planning for open evenings and open mornings relies on you liaising with other schools in the borough. And that can sometimes delay as and when you're putting stuff out. I think where we try to work around that is we will create assets and materials, but with just no dates. So, but then it comes to sometimes it does come to September before you can physically put that out there, and then you've got that supply chain of printing and you know, everything else that goes with that to get that all in check. It does make it a bit of a rush challenge. So, yeah, I think in an ideal scenario, all of that would be done months in advance, or even a year ahead. I mean, there's probably some local authorities where they do that better than others, but yeah, it does seem that there's still that panic and mad rush at this time of year, just before the hype of the open evenings. But no, full credit to you for the amount of schools you've got. It sounds like you've got everything in fine tune.
I was going to say, I mean, you know, it's one person in 23 schools. I think that is a very good kind of, you know, high standards for all of us to aspire to.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, hats off to you.
Yeah, there's a lot of anywhere I can find a cheat, or you know, if I see someone's done something good, I'm like, yeah, I'm having that. Any opportunities to cheat or to, you know, share resources, I'm there for it.
Let's call it efficient. Be efficient rather than cheat.
Absolutely, no point reinventing the wheel and all that.
Yeah, which nicely brings us on to our second question around challenges. So, what challenges or challenge are you currently facing the most, Kim, in terms of your role and the environment you're in, and how are you addressing that?
So, I guess I would probably say my biggest challenge is, you know, I've touched on this already, but the sheer number of schools that I'm looking after, you know, and they're all so different. So, you know, I've got inner city schools with kind of high levels of deprivation. I've got schools, you know, leafy, rural, country schools. I've got schools that are bursting at the seams. I've got schools that are really struggling for numbers. So that variety, I think, presents a challenge, but in a way, it's probably one of my favourite things about my job is that it is so varied, and each head teacher I go to, I can never kind of copy and paste, you know, because they're all so different. You know, they all require a different type of planning and marketing. So I would say, you know, that's a really key challenge. And I think another challenge, and you know, if anyone is watching that also looks after faith schools as well, is that element of, you know, our trust being a Catholic trust, and some of the misconceptions that come along with that. So in a time when there are low birth rates and every school is struggling for numbers, to have an additional factor that is some parents thinking, well, I'm not going to apply to that school because I'm not Catholic and therefore I won't get in. You know, that's an additional challenge that I have to face in terms of not wanting to water down the Catholic nature of our schools, because that's obviously really important for the schools and the diocese, etc. But equally making it really clear that it is open to people of all faiths or no faith at all. So that is definitely an additional challenge, and I have to think really carefully about how I find the right balance.
I literally, I mean, that thing that you just said about Catholics, I mean, I'm up in the Northeast, and that is the thing that people say, right? I don't know where it started. I don't know if it was true in the past and isn't true now, but that is definitely, I've totally experienced that with Catholic schools. And they're just this kind of perception, which is, you know, unless you're Catholic, you are not going to, you're not going to get a chance of admission. So it is that, isn't it? It's challenging these kind of these rumors, these kind of state, you know, these kind of self-imposed, or, you know, or kind of community. What's the word? I'm kind of thinking, you know, like public kind of imposed kind of rumors that aren't true at all, and you're dispelling these myths. So it's really interesting that, and I'm sure there's probably a lot of other organizations similar to yourself that, you know, either other faith schools with other kind of faith backgrounds or other kind of interesting kind of stories that other people could tell on this, because it's quite funny, isn't it? Just that kind of myth that's come up, and I've experienced it. Northeast of England, I know you're in Leicester, and I'm sure there are schools right in the far kind of southwest coast that will also say exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
go on,
sorry, Kim. I was just going to say, is that a topic obviously Catholic heads and leaders talk about and want to address more? Because I think there's obviously a campaign there potentially to develop to address some of these myths and do some something in collaboration.
Yeah, I mean, when I talk to head teachers, we just try to make sure that our marketing is as inclusive as it can be, and that we are trying to get the message out about how good our schools are, and what a kind of Catholic education means, and just trying to make sure that we are, we're showing that we're inclusive, and we have lots of different people that come to our schools from different cultures and different faiths. And I guess we probably try to do that in a more subtle way than a direct way. So yeah, it is a topic of conversation to make, because fundamentally at the end of the day, we, just like everybody, we need bums on seats to ensure that the people in those schools get the best that they can. So yeah, it is a conversation that we have frequently to make sure that we are an inclusive educational trust, but also making sure that is not in any way diluting the Catholic life that goes on in schools. So yeah, it's a constant balancing act of trying to do the right thing, I guess.
Oh, fantastic. Well, yeah, hats off to you again, because that is a challenge in itself to have to develop marketing and comms for. In terms of the big picture then, so what emerging trends across the sector are particularly influencing the work that you do?
So this probably isn't really an emerging trend. It's probably like a going on forever trend, but I think just recruitment, really.
I probably need to rephrase that question, actually.
The emerging trends is all a bit unknown at the moment, isn't it? With
the biggest headache, the biggest trend, recruitment.
Yeah, so no, I would say recruitment, and how marketing can work with recruitment to make sure we're getting the best staff in, and the conversations that I'm constantly kind of having with heads is that how they can use, for example, their social media platforms to grow their school and showcase to prospective parents what a great place to attend their school is, but also that is where prospective members of staff will be looking as well, and they will be looking at the kind of offer that schools are putting out there. And I think what we've tried to do really hard as a trust is, for our marketing materials around recruitment, is to because there's nothing different as a trust that we are offering in terms of salary or pension or anything like that. It's all it's all the nationally agreed terms and conditions. So we really want people to look at our marketing materials around recruitment and get a sense of what it feels like to work here, and how kind of cohesive we are as a trust, and the career opportunities that are available of working in such a large trust. So we've really tried hard to sort of look at that storytelling from a kind of feeling perspective, if that makes sense, because it is a real challenge to recruit. So yeah, I would say that is kind of one of the biggest impacts I feel like I've been able to have since I've been here, but there's still a lot more work to do.
I mean, it's really interesting. It's certainly the more ambitious trust that we see out in the market, how they are how they understand that their brand proposition is going to have a big impact on recruitment and retention within staff. I mean, if you look at what was AET now and Lift Schools, I mean, they are all over flexible working, and that is something that they want to be known for. And you can see that. I think other trusts might be a bit more structured in their approach and and that is replicated across their brand, and you see the symmetry across all their logos and their websites, and it's all coming out in the marketing because it is public. They want that public perception. So it's you're absolutely right, because pay is such a it's such a poor factor to job hunt on, and I think pay or it drops down to pay when you don't have anything else to sell, right? And it's what's I find actually inspiring is the fact that education is really twigging on to this, that in a competitive market, you need a strong value proposition. You need to stand for something. You can't stand for everything. But you have to pick some key points that you're going to focus on as part of your value proposition. And you need to continually communicate those out to change public perception. So yeah, it's great. It's great to hear that that you're focusing on that. And I think we will see more of that. And it would be good to just maybe circle back round at some point, Kim, and to just talk about what are the points that you're trying to, you know, those key USPs that you're looking for, and how you've used those and brought those forward for attracting new candidates and prospective, you know, teaching staff and support staff.
I mean, you mentioned about storytelling, and I think, you know, that's something I think that's quite powerful. It's a bit cliche when you talk about it in a strategic context, but actually that's the stuff that wins hearts and minds. And if you can piece that together over an academic year, rather than just this on and off approach of, oh, we've got all these jobs now, we need to just do a load of campaigns. Actually, it needs to be stuff that's consistent. And when, as you say, you know, it's not just prospective parents looking at your socials, it's prospective staff. And, you know, there's a whole piece there around thinking about all stakeholders all the time when you're creating your content. It's tough for us in the marketing world to do that, because you're trying to, you know, put an admissions campaign out, but also thinking, well, actually, you know, a member of staff might see this, or prospective member of staff, and we need to make sure that it's inclusive for them as well, or something that's going to appeal to them. And I think it's just that joined up piece of work that's kind of the evergreen content flowing through your channels. You know, but yeah, as Ryan said, it'd be great to kind of touch base in a bit more of a deeper dive on this discussion at some point later on.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to do that. And I think probably one of the things that's really helped me have this focus. So I've got a background in HR and recruitment. So, you know, this is my background.
It's a light bulb moment now.
So yeah, it's something I'm really passionate about. And I think kind of, you know, recruitment and marketing sit really neatly together, actually.
Hand in glove,
so yeah, definitely something that that's kind of constantly in my head, really.
Yeah, no, that's refreshing to hear, because, you know, I mean, again, bringing it back to the trust that I work for, I've been really fortunate. You know, my colleague who's director of people and HR across our organisation, she gets it. She's been really, really empowering. But then you speak to other trusts and people, and they're like, "Oh no, that's marketing's job," and they do create that barrier between HR and marketing. When actually, you know, where recruitment and retention is concerned, there's a whole piece there around that, them working together, and where you see it works really well.
Definitely.
So yeah, nice to hear someone else is in the same corner fighting for this, but also with the HR experience as well. I think that's going to be hugely valuable. So yeah, definitely a conversation we'd like to follow up on. But I'm just conscious of time, and I know you're busy. You've got a very busy week ahead, so I don't want to eat any more than we should be doing. But I just want to say a massive thank you. That's been a really insightful conversation today, Kim. Ryan, thank you for your time as well with the questions you've posed. I'm sure there's, you know, anyone watching will get a lot of value from this. I certainly have. So yeah, as you said before about taking stuff from other people, you know, we all do that, and that, you know, that's a great way to learn. So yeah, a big advocate of that. Any final comments from yourself, Ryan or Kim?
I just want to say thank you for having me. I was quite nervous about this, but it's been good.
No, good. And big thanks from Ruby the kitten, who's been diligently quiet the whole time.
Paid.
I know.
Yeah, Ruby's the new MarCommEd mascot.
I know, it's just right.
Yeah.
So
Get a little sweater.
Yeah. Well, listen, have a great week, everyone.
Yeah, thank you for your time, and thank you for everyone for watching. Thank you, Kim.
Thanks very much.